Okay. Screaming children aside, I'm trying a slightly different format today. I'm gonna do a mixture of talk through and just showing you the makeup. Here we go. It might be really choppy. I've never really edited a video where I've got the talk through with it too. So bear with me. Love me. So I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna go ahead and put primer on my face right now, but you wanna make sure that your primer has enough time to sit in your skin, about 60 to 120 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes. I'm gonna be using the ColourPop All-Star Matte and Blur Primer, and I do not use a lot. So I'm gonna get like this little dot here, and it's gonna go only in the center of my face because this is a matte primer. I don't want this up here. I don't want it under my eyes. So we're just gonna focus it in the center of the face. And we're gonna start in on the eyes. This is the MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. And I'm gonna pick up just a fluffy brush. This I think is by Sonia Kashuk. And I'm gonna put this all over my lid. I had to go get my towel. This is the ColourPop I Think I Love You palette. Ignore my child. Into My Treat. And I'm just gonna take my eyeshadow everything brush. Guys, any double-ended brush you see me use, any double-ended brush you see me use that has this gold in the middle, all of these are my mascara brushes, my face brushes, my eye brushes. If you see double-ended and gold, that's a mascara brush. And I'm gonna go right in with the fluffy end, and I'm gonna take that satin bone on the brow bone. What do you need? I'm gonna use Pup by Mascara. These little single eyeshadows, my little squares like this that I usually have in my compact, those are all also mascara eyeshadows. And I'm putting this in the crease and the socket. So it's coming up above the fold, in other words. And notice the angle I'm holding my brush to, that's also important. I'm pushing up into that socket. I'm picking up my Dose of Colors blending brush. This is a nice tapered brush. At the tip, it tapers, and it's a little bit longer than it is wide, or it's wider than it is long, however you want to look at it. And I'm gonna go into Oak, which is another eyeshadow by Mascara, and I'm just getting it on the very tip of the brush. I'm gonna find where it's longer, and I want the length to go into the socket, and I'm gonna come at my socket. This is why I don't do talk throughs. I'm gonna come at my socket at a slightly upwards angle, and I'm gonna wiggle this into the socket, and then once I'm wiggled in, I'm gonna start sweeping. Wiggle it in, and then I'm sweeping against that bone. And that just adds a nice illusion of depth and a higher crease. I do have hooded eyes, so I have to contend with that in any eye look that I do. This is Gigi. And you can see it has a nice little shimmer to it. I'm going to use this same brush. Now this brush is not densely packed, and that is gonna give me a really diffused, soft pigment on my lids. If I wanted to lay down some pigment, I would use a much more dense brush. So I'm gonna take it just on the side now. Remember I said there's a longer side. And I'm gonna place that on the outer third of the lid itself. This is Bend and Snap, also by Mascara. And I'm gonna use my finger now, and I'm gonna take this on the lid, and I'm gonna meet where we just put Gigi out here. And I'm taking it just to my crease, but not above the crease. All right, then I'm picking up Unicorn. And I'm getting a really dense brush now because I want this to lay down more pigment than one of the fluffy brushes does. This is the Blend and Tap brush, and I'm using the wider end here. There is a dome side on this end as well. Both are very dense. And I'm going to tap that on the inner third of the lid. Oh, and this, my lash curler is adorable, and it's from Tarte. So shadow liner is a really good place to start because shadow is forgiving. It's easy to clean up, and it's not gonna be as stark against your eyeshadow or your skin. Anyone who's trying to learn how to master a wing, especially if you're not entirely sure of what's best for your eye shape, start with a shadow. So I'm actually gonna pick up, this color is called Trust, and it's also by Mascara. I personally prefer a bent liner brush. This is the Morphe M217. I know a lot of people do also like to use, say, something like an angle brush. And so you can do that as well. This is by Mascara Beauty. This is the Hotline brush. If you prefer a brush like that, by all means, you can use that. I just find that I have a little bit more control as far as flicking and making a precise wing if I have just a teeny tiny tip. I'm gonna take my brush and I'm gonna coat, make sure I'm getting every side of this brush with the eyeshadow. Hi. And now the biggest thing is that it's important to keep your eye open, looking straight ahead. So I just have this mirror right here with a neutral eye, and you can see what is actually seen of your lid, where your natural hood or your natural crease lies. And then you want to make your wing in harmony with that. My technique on this changes depending on what medium I'm using. With shadow, I actually like to start with my flick first, and then I will come across the lash line and meet the flick. Play with it, see what you're most comfortable with. So I'm gonna go ahead and come in here. I'm gonna make sure I'm in the frame, and I am going to look straight, and I'm just gonna start kind of making a shape that follows my lower lash line. And you'll see it's not a dark shade. I'm just making a little shape that follows the bottom lash line trajectory as if a line just continued up. I'm gonna turn the brush. This is why I like the angled liner brush, because then I'm gonna turn it and I can still see. So I've figured out where my crease is here, where my hood is. And I'm gonna pull straight across without closing the eye, without altering the shape of the eye in any way. I sat here, neutral eye position, and pulled across. So if you look closely, you will see there's a little shape, a little triangle that I made there. And I'm gonna eventually go back in and just color that in. I'm creating an outline, and then I just color in. Then I'm just going to start shadowing across. Let me come over here. Across the lash line. And I'm gonna start coloring in the shape that I created here. And I use little flicking motions as I go across the eye. I don't raise my eyebrows as I'm doing everything. As I'm creating your shape, try not to raise your brow, because obviously, what is that doing? It's completely altering the natural state of your hood, of your crease, of your socket. So I'm raising mine to get a taut lid. All right, so now I want to get this a little bit more flicked out. It's a little bit blunt at the end, and I want it to be a little bit more finessed. Again, this is why I like this liner brush, because I have a very, very pointed tip here, and I'm gonna flick. Notice I rest my hand on my pinky here. take a makeup wipe. This is why I like a shadow wing. These are the Truth on the Glow Cleansing Cloths by Ole Henriksen. I like these a lot. And I'm gonna fold it up here and just clean that up. Look at that. Then you get, I have a really feline type look here. I'm looking at you. I'm in a neutral eye position here, and I don't have that terrible like swoopy check that you can get with wing liner and a hooded eye, because I made sure not to torque the skin around my eye in any way. I wasn't pulling it out like this. I kept it very neutral so that once my eye fell back to neutral state, I wouldn't have this weird like folded flick. I'll show you on the side again. All right, so I like to start by giving myself a little flick out here. And I'm following the trajectory of my lower lash line, keeping my eye neutral. I'm gonna come up on the hood. I'm on my fold. And I'm just gonna drag this over. And you can see there's like a weird shape happening right now. And that is normal. That's because I have that hood. And then I start to fill in the lash line. Now I'm going to take a look at my shape that I've made here. Just fill that little line in and just color in here. And you're just gonna have a thick wing when you close your eye, but whenever you open it, it's gonna be normal. So I'm gonna start at the bottom, filling that line in. Then I'm gonna take that makeup wipe and I'm gonna do the same thing. So another piece of advice that I have for you is if you've been finessing and kind of messing with this wing for a while and it's not looking exactly the way that you want it to look, put the brush down, put the pen down, put whatever it is you're using down, back away from the eyeliner, move on to lashes, then reassess. And there's two things that I'll say about that. Your wing liners, your eye shapes are not exactly the same. On the outside here, I've got more of a flap. That sounds so gross, but I do. My wing liner is almost never gonna be exactly the same on my eye. In the beginning, I would get caught up in that and I would try to make this wing exactly even, and I would drive myself crazy. And it wasn't fun to do a wing because I would just stress out over it. They're not the same eye. And so if the wing is slightly different, it actually will probably end up looking better because it's right for that eye shape, that specific eye. The second thing is once your mascara is on, it will change how your liner looks. Most of the time it'll make your liner look better. And so those little fiddly things that you were stressing over, you're not even gonna be able to see them once you get the mascara on, and nobody else is gonna notice them too. I can almost assure you of that. I'm now going to do my luminous primer. So I only did my matte and blur primer here in the center, remember? And then I do like to, careful with my water there, baby. I do like to use a luminous primer on the high points of my face. I'm going to use the Ulai today. Just gonna do one pump here. I put this on the high points of my face and under my eyes. What's up? Yeah.
Oh.
A hack is highlight and contour. That's what we call it in the mascara world. So all of my foundation is gonna come out of here. My foundation, my concealer, my color corrector, my contour, my blush, my illuminator. If I wanted bronzer today, my bronzer is also Mascara Beauty, and I can just get a bigger compact and put everything in there. Right now I have my bronzer in its own little fun guy right here. We're just gonna use these two brushes today. So this is the B squared brush, the big fluffy end here, a little bit smaller, denser end here. And this is the Best Blend Forever brush. This is a very feathery end on this side, not at all a dense brush. And then you have a little bit more dense, precise brush here. I'm gonna start with this end, and I'm gonna go into a color called Petal. This is the lip and cheek color, technically, and I use it under my eyes to color correct and help brighten so that it's not all on a concealer's shoulders. If you try to use just a lighter concealer color over shadow, so over circles or bags or something like that, all you're going to do is make that tone look ashier. In effect, you're going to be highlighting that shadow, but not canceling it. Then I'm going to go with my B squared brush, and I'm going to use this smaller, denser end here. This end can be used for so many things. I'm going to use it right now for my main highlight colors. And I use a mixture of Candlelit and Sandy. So I'm going to go in with Sandy for this area of my face. Then I'm going to start working into Candlelit. And I'm going to kind of stamp that across the bottom here. So now I'm going to pick up my Best Blend Forever brush. Remember, this is the brush that I used in the very beginning to go under my eye, flipping it over. I'm going to go into my contour color, and I use the shade Shadow. And I'm going to place that, I'm hugging my cheekbone. Then I'm going to flip the brush over, use this small end again. That's what I'm going to use to contour my nose. I'm just getting it on the very tip of that. Same brush, flipping it over to this fluffy end. We're going to use Lovespell today. And it is a glossy finish lip and cheek. And we're going to go into this lighter shade here called Candlelit, using the same brush that I used for Petal in the very beginning. So I've still only used these two brushes. Technically, I haven't used this end yet. I'm about to pick up the tiniest amount. Notice I'm not dragging and picking up a ton. I'm touching, and that is now my concealer. Picking up this brush that I use this end to do those main colors, the skin tone color. I'm going to use this big end. I'm not putting anything on it. And I'm just going to blend. Then I like to use the pads of my fingers to soften and blend under my eyes. I just find that that gives me the smoothest finish over anything else. You don't want to go in ham down there, both in pressure or in product. You will never hear me recommend baking unless you're like a stage performer. But for every day, day to day, ain't gonna happen here. Okay, so now we are blended out, and I have this nice even one layer complexion, but that also gives me amazing dimension on my skin. I love this makeup so much. I'm gonna pick up my Laura Mercier Secret blurring powder for under eyes. One more brush, just because I really love this brush for this product. This is by the Beauty Bureau. This is her concealer brush, but I love it for setting my under eye. Instead of going into a different powder or whatever, I'm just gonna go into my Vanilla Dust here with this same brush. And I'm going to mattify the center of my face. Picking back up my B squared brush. Remember, we've used this brush for plenty of things so far. This is the Galactic Luminous Face Powder in the shade Fair. You don't need a lot because this does have pigment. So I'm just going to touch in one time, and that's what I'm going to use to set the rest of my face. Anytime you put something that has luminosity in it on top of skin that has, say, a little bit more texture, or where you see pores or you have fine lines, things like that, it's going to be bouncing and reflecting light. And what happens whenever you bounce and reflect light on texture, you're accentuating the texture. But for setting like through here, oh, it's a dream. I'm gonna pick back up this Best Blend Forever brush. This is the brush that I use for my contour, for my blush, for my spot, or for my color correcting, my concealer. What else? And I'm gonna go into Glamazing Illuminator here. And I'm going to place that right here on the highest point of my cheekbone. And the best way I can tell you where to place your illuminator, because it will vary shape, face to face, based on face shape, is just look at where light is naturally catching on your skin. I see light on me right here. So that's where I'm going to put it. So now I have a natural sheen and not like, oh, that's a stripe of highlight. Nobody wants that. All right, I'm not putting anything on this. I like to just kind of do one last blend over just to make sure everything is melted together. To finish the eyes, I'm going to go back into Oak, this light brown that we used. I'm going to use the eyeshadow everything brush, and I'm going into that bullet end, and I'm going to smudge this, go back into that Gigi. I'm going to go back into Glamazing now. That same brush that I just used for the lower lash line, wipe it off on a towel. That's why I always have a towel on my lap when I'm doing my makeup. And that's going on the inner corner. I'm going to line my lips with Stone Contour. And I'm using the multitasker brush. I'm going to flip this brush over. And I'm going back into Lovespell, the same blush that I used. Remember, it's a glossy finish. It's going to be beautiful on the lips. I think I kind of want to brighten up the lip a bit. I'm going to go into this is Angel Illuminator. It's one of our cream illuminators. This is the finished look. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. Like I said, this is a little bit different format than what I've been doing with my IGTV videos, doing talk throughs with it. So, but again, even after I edit it, it's choppy and not smooth. Well, mwah.